What have we discussed thus far? We have discussed what are unitary countries, what are federal countries. So going back to what are unitary countries, we learned that um, regional governments are there in unitary countries as well as federal countries. Whether you are a unitary country or whether you're a federal country, you always have regional governments, and you have a national level one government, central government, and you have regional governments here and there, um, who's in charge of governing local government bodies, like handling grassroots level responsibilities. So we learn that every country has regional governments, and the first thing we cleared is it is a misconception if someone tells you that unitary countries where you don't have regional governments, federal is where you have regional governments. That's wrong, that's incorrect. Okay, it's basically unitary means the regional governments are not independent, federal means unitary governments, federal means the regional governments are independent, right? That means the regional governments share the sovereignty power with the central government. That's what makes a difference. Now, we saw that certain countries like Sri Lanka, Great Britain, France, these countries are unitary. That means these countries have their central government with the sovereign power centralized. These governments handle the central governments handle the sovereign power alone on their own, right? But you have countries like the US or Germany or Australia, Canada, these kind of countries, Switzerland, these kind of countries that the regional governments share the sovereignty power of the central government, that those regional governments have some sort of an independence from their central government. So we studied this thoroughly. We studied the advantages, disadvantages. We studied what are the reasons. We studied what are the features. So you guys have a thorough understanding on that. Now it's time to move on to semi-federal. So what do you mean by semi-federal? Semi-federal means it is somewhere in between federal and unitary states. Okay. When it comes to certain countries, by certain countries, I of course mean our neighbor country, India, right? In semi-federal lesson, it's pretty much we study how the Indian governmental system works, Indian federal system works. Okay. So when we go there, when we go to India, right? As the note suggests, this format of government consists of both unitary and federal features. Therefore, in simple terms, this format is a cross between the unitary and federal model. It's like a crossover, right? So one goes on the other. The ideal example of federalism is the Indian Constitution. India features a system where the power of governance is systematically shared between the state governments and the central government. The system can also transform from unitary format to a federal format, and vice versa, depending on the circumstances. Okay, so what does this mean, right? First things first, guys. India does not specify whether they are unitary or federal. Okay. Now you walk up to someone in some country. Okay. You walk up to someone in some country and ask them whether you are unitary or federal. You ask someone from one of these countries, uh, dude, is your country unitary or federal? So they'll be like, my country is federal, or they'll be like, my country is unitary. But if you ask someone from India, right, is your country is unitary or federal? Actually, they might not give you an answer. They may say federal, but actually they can refuse giving an answer. Why is that? It's because their constitution does not specifically say whether they are unitary or federal. Now that is something every other country does the moment they start the constitution. You turn the first page of the constitution, it says whatever the country, we are a unitary state or we are a federal state. They mention that in the very first page. But in India, they don't say whether they are unitary or federal because they can be both at times, right? They're transitional. They can transition from one to another. Okay. So they carry features of both. At times they can be unitary, at times they can be federal. Now why is that? Now we saw the reasons to establish a federal government, right? Why do you need a federal government? Sometimes when the country is big, you need to have federal government. That's the main reason. India is a big country, right? So if you all are planning on traveling the world in a travel Instagram, cutting those influencers, who travel and put posts everywhere, right? So if you are planning on becoming a traveler like that, right? Travel with wife wage mokkari channel එක පටන් ගන්න ඉන්නවනම්, okay? Uh, I give you an advice. If you want to start your channel at a budget, if you don't have like millions to spend, like, to travel Europe or whatever, why don't you start with India? Not these days, definitely, right? But maybe like once this COVID issue is over, right? Why don't you start in India? You can actually go to India and you can travel around India, and that will be similar to traveling around the world. Because when it comes to India, each state is very different, right? Even people look different when it comes to, like, at least you can't necessarily look at one, you can't necessarily have an idea this is what an Indian would look like. We do have somewhat of an idea of like these Bollywood actors and all, but that's not how everyone looks in India, right? You take the South Indians, like they're Tamils from Tamil Nadu and all, right? Then you go to like the Kerala side, Kochi side, they look different. Then you go to Bengali side and they look different. Then you go to like those Sikkim and all those areas near Bhutan and all, they look quite Asian, right? Then you come to this side, they are the ones who are familiar with, like, these Bollywood stars and all. So even starting with the skin complexion, their physical features, to their clothing, to their languages, to their cultures, food, right? Everything is different. Even what do you call that? Even climate wise, you go to that area near, like, the Everest, like, Nepal and that area, like you have like areas like that. You have Kashmir and all, where you have snowfall. Then you have areas like Kerala, where those are like, beautiful beaches. Then you have Rajasthan, where they have like these deserts and all. So India is a big country, and inside India, it is like a small world. You can actually do an Instagram series traveling from state to state in India, and that will be equally diverse and colorful as doing like a world tour, right? Different languages, different cultures, right? So it's a huge country, not in just geography wise. Like geography wise, there are big countries. Like you take a country like Canada, geographically huge, bigger than USA also, but it's not that diverse. When you go, like, Canada is diverse because of the immigrants. You go to Canada, you meet these you have a lot of Sikh population, a lot of Tamil population, right? You have Muslims and you have Africans. So they have diversity because of the immigrants. Other than that, naturally Canada doesn't have that much of the land being that big. You don't have that much of a cultural diversity or like a human diversity there. But compared to that, India, that's not the biggest country in the world, but at least given the population they have and the cultural diversity they have, it's a big country. And it is practically impossible for one government to control it all, right? One central government to control it all, it's practically impossible. Which is why they are going to need a federal government. It is a must, they need to have a federal government, right? But there is another problem. We saw when you allow federalism, there is a risk of states being too independent. There is a risk of states breaking away. We saw several examples of states breaking away as separate countries. So this explains that India is sort of like, they are caught in a pickle here. Again, like, so it's a real pickle here, right? It's a pickle. Why? You can't go federal because your country isn't the most politically stable country in the world. But you can't go unitary also because your country is huge and there's so much diversity that one government can't handle. So what to do? What do you do when you can't go federal because you're politically not stable enough, and when you can't go unitary because your country is too big? What do you do then? What you can do is place your constitution somewhere in between unitary and federal. Okay, somewhere in between unitary and federal. That means what? That means your country can shift to unitary when necessary, federal when necessary. Understand? You can function as a federal country because the country is big. So of course, Narendra Modi can't control the entire country himself. Of course, we saw how big that country is, right? But you can't give them full federal like the US. Like the US, you can't be like, okay, you know what? This is my state, right? But the Karnataka is my state. Prime Minister, you have no job in what I'm doing here. Don't poke your nose here. That's how it works in the US, right? The governor of New Jersey can say, President, just I don't give a damn, right? You can't poke your nose here. This is my territory and I have autonomy in my sphere of powers. But in India, you can't allow that because they aren't politically really stable, which is why they function as a normal federal state. And at times, when it's necessary, they quickly shift to being a unitary country, right? So you remember that first example I came up with in this lesson, giving a key. Imagine your father gives you a key and say, this is your room. And that is like a unitary country, right? Because your father can take that key whenever he wants. He can take that key back. But comparing to that, signing a contract, signing an agreement, and saying this is your room works because your father can't take it back whenever he wants. Then you have to sign a new contract or revoke a new contract, revoke the existing contract, which your father can't do on his own. Therefore, signing a contract and getting that room is more effective. But there can be a situation like this. There can be a situation where your father has so many rooms in the house that he can't control everything on his own, right? So he sort of believes that maybe I should give the control of these rooms to my children. But on the other hand, he's worried that giving that control may result in these children breaking these rooms away as their own houses. Then what do? You can do what India does, right? You can do this, you can sign a contract, but inside the contract you can include a clause that says, if I want, I can revoke this contract whenever I want, and I take full control of the house, right? So it's something like that. In India, normally the country functions as a federal country. That means uh, it works like the US up to a certain extent. Like, the chief ministers of each province, they handle their province, and the central government prime minister has no powers to sort of like interfere. Okay. But on the other hand, the moment there's like any political issue occurs, any political intensity occurs, any political conflict occurs, the central government says, okay, you know what, from tomorrow onwards, all of you are out of power, I am in charge. Okay, this happened in 1970s or 80s, I don't exactly remember, but Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared a national emergency and she basically took over all the powers of the country. Okay, so in fact, what happened was those chief ministers went out of power once they woke up in the morning. Literally, right? Those people woke up in the morning just to answer a phone call without even getting off the bed, right? Those land phones that you have the phone right next to the bed, right? And they were like, we have a news for you, you are fired. So your government is no longer in power. The central government is in charge of the entire country. Okay. So in India, there are three types of emergencies. Number one, it can be a national emergency, or it can be like a state national emergency. You take control of the entire country. All the state governments are out of power and the central government is in charge, right? Or else it can be a state emergency that it occurs in a certain state that you dissolve that state government and the central government controls. Or it can be a financial emergency. Can be like a financial crisis, right? Something like that. Now that is one of the options Narendra Modi can take at this time. He can actually declare an emergency because of this COVID situation and he can take control. Okay. Right. So let's read and understand this further. We get someone who has the note downloaded. Prashit, could you read for us?
Sir.
Yeah.
So, from the topic itself.
For semi-federal governments. Now I am going to open the textbook here. Okay, you might have that temporary note I uploaded. There can be like minor changes here and there. Okay, these lessons are this particular lesson isn't that different. So just go ahead and read. You see,
Semi-federal model of
Prashit,
yeah.
so I'm using the old note, like the one I wrote.
oh yeah, sure. It's the same note that is typed. So not a problem. Okay.
Okay.
There can be minor differences here and there, like those grammatical errors and stuff corrected. And there are like pictures and graphs included this one. Okay, so you need to print out for the revision class. This only for
Right.
Okay. Right. Okay. Go ahead, Prashit.
Semi-federal model of government. This format of government consists of both unitary and federal features. Therefore, in simple terms, this format is a cross between the unitary and federal models. The ideal example of semi-federalism is the Indian Constitution. India features a system where the power of governance is systematically shared between the state governments and the central governments. This system can also be transferred from a unitary format to a federal format and vice versa, depending on the circumstances. Each state government consists of its own legislature and a council of ministers headed by the chief minister. The state governments have extensive powers, including the police powers, etc. However, these state governments do not have full or complete autonomy like other federal countries such as US, Canada, Germany, or Australia. Although the Indian Constitution has federal features, it does not call itself federal, neither does it call itself unitary. The Constitution does, however, feature several elements of both unitarianism as well as federalism. The power of the central government has over the states to dissolve and control the country in emergency situations is a significant unitary feature. During emergency situations, the Indian central government receives vast powers, including handling executive functions of the state and making laws. Basically, India functions as a typical unitary country during emergency situations. So I read that as well. The Indian Constitution identifies three types of emergency situations. Number one, national emergency. This is a situation of either an invasion on India, a national level war, or internal political crisis. According to Article 352 of Indian Constitution, all the states are brought under the control of the central government in such circumstances. Second, state emergency. This is a situation where crisis occurs within a particular state. In this case, the president can declare an emergency situation over that specific state and bring it under the control of the central government according to Article 356. Financial emergency. This is when the country is facing a financial crisis. In the above mentioned situation, the central government can dissolve state legislatures and state executives. Each state has an office called the state governor to handle the coordination between the state and the central government. When the central government takes over over state, the central government administers the state through the government. Usually, it is the president who handles the task. Hence, it is known as the imposition of the president's rule in the state. However, since India has a cabinet system, the official action of the president is in fact a decision of the prime minister. Example: during the term of Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi from 1975 to 1977, an emergency was declared and India functioned as a unitary country for 18 months. Have that part of it. I should have it on my. According to the Indian Constitution, the central government can make laws for states even in normal circumstances without an emergency situation. Therefore, due to the dominions of the central government, the Indian federal system has been heavily criticized by political scientists. Hence, Casey, what's his surname?
Weir, Casey Weir.
Weir has described the Indian constitution as a semi-federal system that is more likely a unitary format with federal features than a federal format with unitary features.
Right, okay. So this is basically a map of India. So these are the states of India, right? So all these states can basically go out of power at certain points, and India can function as a unitary country. Now there's a historical incident of Indira Gandhi doing that, right? It's known as
Sir,
the
is India under the central government at this situation, sir, due to COVID?
Indira Gandhi is the prime minister, so she's in
No,
charge
no.
of the central government.
What I'm asking, sir, is that that was that in 1975, no, sir. I'm asking now with the situation India is going through,
Yes.
is India under the central government during this COVID crisis?
No, they haven't declared anything like that, which is why I said it's an option Modi has at the moment. He can declare it, but I don't think he would do that because it's more convenient if the states take care of the states themselves rather than central government trying to give vaccine to the entire population. Right? So maybe that's the reason they are not declaring that. Okay, right.
So there was a power change, right, in Tamil Nadu.
Oh yeah. So the Tamil Nadu elections took place. So that's a state election. That's a regional election, right? So they've chosen a new state government for Tamil Nadu, and they will be in power as long as the central government does not declare an emergency situation and takes control. Okay.
So elections also can be kept at whatever time the state wants to keep it.
Yes, I mean, like, if in that state, basically a government can fall if there is a no confidence motion or something like that. So if a no confidence motion passes in a certain state, that state is going to have an election.
Okay, so chief minister will change in that state during whatever time period they like. Basically, whatever time period they are comfortable with.
Yes.
So whatever happens is.
So when they complete their term, they are going to have a new election. Okay. So that's a feature of a federal country, right? So normally it functions as a federal country, which is why in Tamil Nadu they had an election and the rest of the India functions without any concern to that, right? But the point is, if they want, they can shift to being a unitary country, and that's a unitary feature. As you can see, Mr. Weir, K.C. Weir has criticized Indian federal system, and he even identifies the Indian constitution as you can see here, he identifies India as more like a unitary format with federal features than a federal format with unitary features. This is something that has been discussed quite a lot. Okay, this is not exactly necessary for you to write in the exam, but those things that you argue on the internet, whether it's Leo or Ronaldo, whether it's a GIF or a GIF, right? Whether Ross and Rachel go on a break or not. People divide to do two groups and they argue, right? So this also has been something like that. Is India a unitary country with federal features, or it's a federal country with unitary features? Understand? It has to be one of the two, right? Again, zebra කියන්නේ කළු විරි තියෙන සුදු සතෙක්ද සුදු විරි තියෙන කළු සතෙක්ද කියලා අහන්නේ, right? Is zebra a black animal with white stripes or a white animal with black stripes? Like that. Something that is debated so much in political science is India, whether they are a unitary country with federal features or a federal country with unitary features. According to Mr. Weir, he thinks, it's more like a unitary country with federal features. But there are people who disagree with that. The point is, it has both features. So much so that we have to create a new category for that, saying it's semi-federal. Right? Because you say federal, then the regions have to have some autonomy, but there's no autonomy. Overnight, the central government can take over, right? So if you have a little bit of space below that note, whatever the note you have, the printed version of the note you have, write it down, write this point. This is the format that was given to us by India under the 1987 Indo-Lanka Pact, Indo-Lanka Peace Treaty. Peace Accordance. India and Sri Lanka signed a peace treaty.
So we have to write it under basically just before Confederate model of government starts.
Yes.
So can you repeat the sentence?
wherever you have space, just write it down with the semi-federal format. This is the format that was given to us by the Indians under the 1987 Indo-Lanka Peace Accord. So the Sri Lankan Provincial Council system is based on this format. Okay. So there's a small story behind that, interesting story behind that. Right. I don't know.
Can you repeat that again?
Sorry.
So this is the format that was given by Indians?
Under the 1987 Indo-Lanka Peace Accord. Indo-Lanka
So peace award?
Accord. ACCORD, accord. Right? Shall I ask a really tough question from you all? Indo-Lanka Treaty outside of what all they want? Indo-Lanka gives outside of what all they, right? You guys won't believe I asked this in a class once, and one of the students said India and Indonesia, sorry, Sri Lanka and Indonesia. I said it's Sri Lanka and India. It was like, then why do you call it Indo Sri Lanka? No, it's India and Sri Lanka, yes. And how that treaty came into existence, there's an interesting story behind that. Hold on, I have to plug this laptop to the batteries. Okay, just listen with you. So this is how it worked. Are you guys aware that Sri Lanka had a civil war? Sri Lanka had a civil war, right?
So the Sinhala Tamil war, right?
Yes. It's the Sinhala Tamil ethnic conflict which created a civil war. It wasn't the Sinhalese fighting the Tamils in the war, right? Which is what you need to be specific about. It was a war between the LTT and the Sri Lankan troops. Okay? But which created the war was the ethnic conflict the Sinhalese and Tamils had in Sri Lanka. Okay? So, this is how it worked. The ones who have studied the colonial transformation of Sri Lanka, like Yannick and all, they all have studied Unit 7 with me already. So, if you guys remember that British rulers applied something called divide and rule. Right? The ones who are familiar to that term, divide and rule means like if someone wants to conquer a country, you create divisions between those people. Okay.
So you can take the example of what Ponnambalam had to go through when
yes. They created divide and rule in Sri Lanka, which created a conflict between Sinhalese and the minorities. Okay, so it's easier to conquer us. It was easy for British people to conquer us when they create disunity among us. So they created a disunity among the Sri Lankan ethnicities, which became like a big ethnic conflict, whereas the Sinhalese, the Tamils, and the Muslims got into a huge conflict. As far as we are seeing racism now, even now, because of that, right? So you guys are aware that the northern province and the eastern province are Tamil majority, right? In those areas, the majority of the population of them are Tamils, and their culture and everything is different. So as we saw in the first two lessons, when you apply federalism for situations like this, right? You apply for federalism for situations like this when you sort of need to give them like a regional government. So the Tamil political leaders initially fought for federalism. They said make Sri Lanka federal, right? Or something similar that would give like a council system to these northern and eastern provinces where they can have their own government to take care of their matters, right? It wasn't given by the central government of Sri Lanka, which was majority Sinhalese. So this tension went up little by little. Whereas the Tamil political leaders at one point in the 1970s, they came to the point that, you know what, we are not going to get the political powers we deserve democratically. We need to go to extreme measures if we want to get what's ours, which is a result of, as a result, the Tamil armed groups are formed. Many groups are formed back then. Telo, EPRLF, Plot, EPDP, lot of organizations like that. But the most prevailing one was LTT, which eventually turned into a very strong terrorist organization, right? And they started fighting a war to break Northern and Eastern Province as their country. They were like, we are done with federalism. We don't want federalism anymore. We want our country. We are fighting and we are taking our country. That was the motto of the war, right? So in late 1980s, when the LTT wasn't that strong, J.R. Jayawardena's government was winning the war. They were winning the war and LTT was about to be defeated and they were stuck in Jaffna, right? So when LTT was stuck there and when they were about to lose the war to Sri Lankan troops, of course, the Indian government decided to make involvements. Okay, so the Indian government, because the Tamil Nadu government was pushing the central government, which was ran by Rajiv Gandhi at one point, Indira Gandhi's son, right? Rajiv Gandhi was running the government at that time. They pushed like, get involved, stop this war. So they got involved in the war with the point that they wanted to say that the civilian population of Jaffna, the Tamil population are affected, which is why India is getting involved in this matter. Okay, so what they did was, since the LTT was stuck inside Jaffna without food, right? They didn't have food because they were stuck inside. What they did was they sent food and aid through boats. Several Indian boats came to Jaffna, carrying food and other aid, right, for LTT members who were stuck. But they said this is for like the Tamil population, right? Then the Sri Lankan army sent them away. They didn't allow the boats to pass through the Sri Lankan border and they defended the border and the boats had to go. Then of course planes came. Indian planes came and they dropped. Right? So Indian planes came and they dropped bags of dal. And like the conspiracy theory says that they had hidden bullets inside that for LTT to fight back. Okay, so then using your political science knowledge, tell me why what India did there was wrong. What was the concept they violated there? They violated sovereignty. Yes, sovereignty. They violated sovereignty there. They violated the airspace of Sri Lanka. The Indian planes came, violating our sovereign borders. Then Rajiv Gandhi was approached by our president, J.R. Jayawardena. J.R. Jayawardena called and said, Rajiv, what you're doing is wrong. Just don't send your planes. And Rajiv Gandhi was like, we are sending planes. We don't care about your sovereignty. We are sending planes. We are dropping food for the people who are affected there. If you shoot one of my planes, we are going to bomb your entire country. Okay. So then JR was like, fine, let's negotiate. Because up to this point, Rajiv Gandhi was continuously trying to negotiate with JR. Like, he was like, stop the war, we'll decide something. JR was like, no, I don't want to negotiate, I'm going ahead with the war. But with this airplane incident, JR was finally willing to compromise and negotiate. So Rajiv Gandhi said, now JR, this is the point. You can't fight a war because LTT is not a foreign country that's fighting for your territory, right? LTT is an organization that is fighting for a political problem of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka doesn't have devolution of powers. Sri Lanka has all the sovereignty powers centralized around the central government, which is a political problem. You need to address this politically, right? He said, why don't you create like a power devolution system in Sri Lanka? Then JR said, I am willing to create like a power devolution system in Sri Lanka, but with LTT I can't because LTT is not willing to take that. LTT wants to continue the war, right? LTT wants to break the peace away and take that as their country. They are not willing to take federalism as a solution, right? So what I am going to do is I am going to finish the war, wipe out the LTT, then I will give a political solution as devolution of powers. Then Rajiv Gandhi said, look, JR, I can't wait till you finish the war and wipe out the LTT, and I can't keep tabs on you whether you would, give power devolution or like I have my other work to do, right? So we can't wait like that. We'll do this. India and Sri Lanka will sign a peace accord. we'll sign a treaty, right? We'll get to an agreement, India and Sri Lanka, right? This is the agreement. Condition 1. You create a provincial council system right now. You add an amendment to the constitution. You create a provincial council system as devolution of powers, right? If you want, you can use our format. In India, we have this system, we are not entirely federal, right? You know, we can take control to our central government. Why don't you use the same exact format we have in India? You establish a provincial council system just like the one we have in India, right? Right now. And second condition, your problem is the LTT, right? Your problem is with LTT, you can't get political solution. Fine. We will give you the Indian army to wipe out the LTT. That's the Hindu-Lanka Pact, Hindu-Lanka Agreement. So J.R. Jawad and Rajiv Gandhi signed that pact, whereas JVP, who was running an armed revolution at that time, and so many other parties were against that, right? They burned down so many post offices and transformers to show that they are against the Hindu-Lanka Pact, right? So lot of violence took place. But in the end, J.R. Jawad signed that Hindu-Lanka Pact with India. As a result, Sri Lanka was given a provincial council system, just like the Indian format. We just took the format from India and created the provincial council system. Devolution of powers was applied to Sri Lanka. And secondly, as the contract promised, Indian army arrived. IPAF, Indian IPAF. Now, IPKF, Indian Peacekeeping Force, right? So they arrived in Sri Lanka, the Indian army, to wipe out the LTT. Okay.
No, but I thought IPKF came after LTT bombed and killed Rajiv Gandhi, right?
No,
Indira Gandhi.
No, they actually, Rajiv Gandhi. You're talking about Rajiv Gandhi, but Rajiv Gandhi was killed as a result of that. Then the LTT was pissed. Because when India got involved in the case, the LTT thought that India was going to help them, right? So when the Indian army came to fight the LTT was pissed at Rajiv Gandhi, which is why they killed Rajiv Gandhi to take revenge for sending.
So that's because the Indian army was not under our jurisdiction and they were ruthless, no?
Yes. So as you guys know, when an army goes to another country, they go ruthless. No rule to control them. You know, they rape women, they kill people, and needless to say, things were pretty bad. And I don't think in this class we have Tamil students, but normally in my class I have Tamil students, so they can relate to their parents. They say things were pretty bad when the Indian army came. Things became worse, right? Which is why.
But after Rajiv Gandhi was killed, basically the Indian army forces, they basically were like close to finishing the war, and then Premadasa took the initiative to send them off because the election was close by, right?
Because Premadasa was anyway against the Indian army. He didn't like the Indian army coming, right? Because that was the problem of the sovereignty. If you go on YouTube, you can find this video of Mahinda Rajapaksa as a young lawyer in like 1980 something. He's very young and he's a young lawyer. And he gives an interview to BBC. He says like, we have like so many, like 6,000 Indian troops in Sri Lanka. We are scared that from Jaffna they'll come here and they'll occupy here. You know, they'll invade us. If someone finds that video, just share the link in the group, okay? So Premadasa promised to send the Indian army away because they were committing so many atrocious crimes. It didn't make the things better because some of the Indian troops were loyal to LTT rather than the Sri Lankan army, and some of the Indian troops were like committing very bad crimes in Jaffna, right? So it was pretty bad, and they wanted to send the Indian army away. Which is why when the Hindu-Lanka peace treaty was signed and Rajiv Gandhi was about to leave, and one of our Navy guys hammered Rajiv Gandhi with his gun, right? So you might have seen like Rajiv Gandhi being attacked by one of our Navy boys. Okay, so that's the story. Anyway, like we will look into this in detail when we are studying the provincial council system of Sri Lanka. For now, just put a note there. The semi-federal system was given to us by the Indians. That's where we learned the format. Okay, so that's the semi-federal format, which brings us to confederates. Okay. So what's happening in confederates? What is a confederate? There are two ways that you can identify confederates, like two simple ways that you can sort of like identify what a confederate is. Number one, you can say a confederate is the other way around of a federal state. A federal state inside out. One can say that. Another can say a federal state is the beginning point, sorry, a confederate is a beginning point of the federal state. Both explanations work. Okay. Now imagine a situation like this. Let's talk about something all of us like, all of us love. Cake. Don't we all love cake? Right? We go to birthday parties hoping to get a piece of the cake, but cake එක ගහ ගන්නවනේ birthday boy හරි girl හරි මූණල්ලා cake එක අතුලලා cake වලින් ගහ ගන්නවා ඊට පස්සේ අර TikTok වීඩියෝ එකකුත් තියෙනවා අර birthday cone එකක් ඔළුවේ දාගෙන ගෑරුප්ප ගන්න right උන් cake එකෙන් ගහ ගන්න. So we all love cake. So let's use cake as an example to understand what's going on. Right. If I explain to you like this, a federal state means taking a big cake and cutting the big cake into small pieces. Dividing a big state into, dividing a big country into small states, regions. Okay. Confederate is the other way around. Confederate is small pieces of cakes getting together to make a big cake. Small regions getting together to have one common government. Understand? Okay. Now I'm going to take you all to a hypothetical world, a parallel universe. Now imagine Sri Lanka is, think of South Asia. Think of the South Asian map. Now just erase India. Forget that there's India. Now imagine in South Asia, you have all small countries. Maldives, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, right? All small countries. Now imagine that these are small independent nations, right? Imagine that us receiving an invasion from the US or China. Do any of us stand a chance against any of these? Can Sri Lanka or Nepal or Bangladesh or Bhutan or Maldives, can any of our countries fight China alone? What happens if we fight alone? Right? China will first come to Bangladesh. Right? Then they'll invade Bangladesh. Bangladesh army won't stand a chance against China and they are going to lose. Then they will come to Bhutan. Right? Then they will come to Maldives. So all of us like try fighting China alone, no match. Right? So don't you think it's the best idea? It's the best idea at the moment if all of our countries get together and form one common central government. Don't you think? If all our countries get together and form one central government for South Asia, that South Asian government may be able to fight China. That's what a confederate is. Right? You know, in the US, back in the day, there was no US. United States wasn't there. Right? There were several independent regions which used to be British colonies, right? New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Louisiana, right? Vermont, Massachusetts, right? So these were independent territories. And they realized if they wanted independence, they had to fight the British Army. So New York alone was no match to the British Army. New Jersey alone was no match to the British Army. Pennsylvania alone was no match to the federal, against the British Army. So what did they do? They got together as the United States and appointed a common central government. They appointed a president for all. They didn't have 50 back then. 13 states. Who was their president? George Washington. Understand? That's how a confederate works. Okay. If I go with another example, federal means, imagine that me adopting you all as my kids. I have 14 kids in this class. Supposed to be 15. Some person gets connected and disconnected continuously. Not sure which one. Right? So imagine I adopt all of you all as my kids. That's how a federal system works. I am the central government. I am the father. Right? I adopted the 15 of you all. So you all are my adopted children. Okay. Confederate means your 14 of you all are orphans living in an orphanage, and you all be like, you know what? We would be safer if we had one foster father for all of us. So 14 of you all get together and take me as your father, as your foster father. Understand? It's the other way around. So what happened if I was the father who adopted you all as my kids? I would have more control over you all, right? If I adopted you all, if you all are my adopted children, I can control you all. I can tell you all, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'll be like, Prashit, don't drink. You'll have to listen to me, right? I'll be like Ramona, don't date that guy. I don't like him. So you have to listen to me. Because I adopted you all and I have more control over you all. Right? Rifki, don't associate that bunch of friends. I don't like you associating them. You have to listen to me. I have more powers. Why? I adopted you all. You all are my adopted kids. That's how in a federal country, the central government has more powers over the states. Right? Central government is much stronger. But if the other way around, 14 of you all live together anyways. Right? In an orphanage. And you all took me as your foster father. I am the new guy here. You all took me as your foster father. Now do I have the same level of control? I can't come and tell Prashit, don't drink. He's been drinking all this time. Right? You are not bound to listen to me like that. Right? Ramon has been dating that guy anyway. Rifki has been associating them anyway. I came 2 months ago. Which means I have lesser powers over you all. You all can live the way you all want. I have lesser powers here. My job here is to protect you all from external threats. But if it was me who adopted the 14 of you all, I have more control. So it works the same way. In a federal country, the central government has more control over the states. But in a confederate, central government has lesser powers. Because the regional governments are more stronger. Now, if let's say that we got together to face a threat from China, right? The South Asian countries, and we appointed one central government, and we put someone like, I don't know, some Bangladeshi army person and a Nepalian army person, one of our army people, Shavendra or someone, and we put one central government there. That government can't control what we have to do, right? That Pakistani guy or that Bangladeshi guy in that central government can't come and tell us what's happening in Sri Lanka. Why? Sri Lanka has been an independent country all this time. We just appointed that government to face that Chinese threat. It's the other way around. If we were a federal country and we got that power from the central government. Understand? Right? But here's the thing. Why did I say confederates can be the beginning of federal state? Now imagine that you all took me as your father and I can't control you all live the way you all want. You all can't do that for a while, right? Because I am playing the role of the father the more time I spend as your father, I grow my power little by little. Right? Muladi all can say, Muladi Prashid can say, "May you just came, you became a foster father like 2 months ago. They stopped trying to control me all the time, right? I drink if I want to drink, right? Muladi, you can tell me that. But with time goes, after like 3-4 years, you can't use that excuse. You came you came recently. Now with time, I grow my power as a father, and little by little, I come to a point that I can control you. Little by little, I come to a point that I can control you all more. And eventually, not knowingly, now everyone has forgotten that it was y'all who took me as a foster father. It turns up to a situation where like a typical father adopting 14 kids, right? So from the foster father, I become like a typical father eventually. That's what happened in the US. George Washington didn't have much powers because he was the president of the Confederate. The regions, certain regions had all the powers. George Washington was simply there just to look over the 13 states. But now when it comes to Joe Biden, who's the 47th president of the US, right? When it comes to him, he has so many powers, and the regions have sort of lost their powers because with time, the central government gets stronger, right? So we don't have confederates in the world at the moment, right? Out of the confederates, the two examples we can use, one is the US. Started off as a confederate in the 1700s, which is a typical federal system right now. And the one that comes closest to a confederate is Switzerland, because in Switzerland, still the regions are more powerful than the central government, but that's also shifting little by little, and eventually they will also turn into a typical federal country. Is that clear? As clear as it can get. Okay, Niruni, can you please read confederates for us?
Yes, sir. Confederate model of government. The basic idea of the term confederate is the agreement. Therefore, confederation is basically an agreement between multiple independent states entered through a constitution. This common constitution creates a confederation in order to allow the independent states to tackle difficult challenges such as defense, foreign diplomacy, etc. in a better manner. Therefore, a confederate can be explained as a political system where many sovereign states create a common government for special tasks. In a confederation, most of the powers are held by regional state governments, and central government has limited powers. Hence, the direction of the central government is decided by the state governments. The ideal historical example for a confederation is the US Constitution, which was developed on Articles of Confederation. A modern example would be the Confederation of Switzerland. A confederation is a system in between a unitarism and a federalism. This is basically a union of states developed on a mutual agreement over a common goal, defense or financial goal. The unique feature of a confederation is that the central government is reasonably weaker than the state governments. Since a confederation is built on a mutual agreement between member states, they determine which powers are to be given to the central government. Therefore, it can be seen that the federal government and a confederate are extremely different from one another. These differences can be summarized as follows. Unlike in a federal system, the central government of a confederation does not have a legislature. A federal system is basically the combination of several states to create a solitary state. Within a confederation, multiple states exist. In a federal system, the central government is given power through constitution. All important tasks and functions are mentioned in the constitution itself, but in a confederation, the central government is given power at the discretion of the member states. The central government of a federal system can implement its power over citizens of the country, but the central government of the confederation does not have this power, as they have very limited influence over the citizen members of the member states. The central government of the federal system consists of a properly organized structure of institutions, but the central government of a confederation does not consist of such a structure. Example, in the American Confederation, the Congress exists as the common institution for all the member states, which did not have a properly organized structure. Some member states had more than 7 representatives while some states only received one representative. However, this type of confederation cannot be seen in the modern world, and the examples for confederations can only be found in history. The American Confederation of 1789, as well as the Swiss Confederation of 1921, both eventually advanced into federal systems. Therefore, some political scientists identify confederations as the beginning of a federal state.
There is a picture of the Swiss Confederation, right? These are independent territories. These are all independent territories, right? So in Switzerland, there is a special name for that, cantons, right? These are known as cantons, and they have a central government for that. And once they started the US, these were the original colonies. Like these function separately back then: New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. So these were the original 13 colonies, and they established a central government for these 13. These 13 functioned on their own. They functioned on their own, and George Washington and the central government simply had to look over, right? But things changed little by little, and at the moment, we have a different system of a typical federal system where the president is in charge of everything and the central government is much more stronger. Right, so that's it for the confederations.